Hi, today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album from Ahero titled Spirit. I hope you enjoy. This track is a pretty intriguing way of opening up the record. The drowning textures and the splashy aesthetic I think are very well done. The dense drum rhythms add a nice punchiness to the song, and I really like the clocking percussion used as well. It makes me feel like I'm stuck in a time zone or something like that. I do think it goes on for a bit too long because in the 6-minute runtime there's not a whole lot of ideas that are played around with, but regardless I still think it's a solid opener. I love the synth work on this track. I think they work very nicely, especially with the effects done for the atmosphere of the track. The percussion progression is great. I like the transition from the slow drum rhythm to a more intense pattern that carries on with the rest of the track. I think the tempo switch does wonders for immersing me in this track, given how the backing instrumentation shadows the drum transition in such an exceptional way. This is a great follow-up from the previous track. I like how the sound of the track is submerging the listener with soft drones and some gentle keyboard rhythms. The electronic lead that comes into the track as it progresses with the drum pattern is kind of euphoric, I'm not gonna lie. Another impressively immersive track. The title track takes more of a darker sound approach, almost like if Silent Hill got a Vaporwave reboot, this would definitely be on the soundtrack. I like the murky atmosphere, the misty drums are also a nice touch. The main groove of the track is solid, and I like the instrumental passages without drums that just let the sound work itself up. I like the chiming keyboards on this track. I think the element of bliss is a huge factor here. The composition is super peaceful and it doesn't take any rough turns or rough trips. It just rides the wave, man. There's very little progression or song dynamics, but I think the 30-second loop here is very well done because the repetition just soothes you into the experience. This track falls a little short for me. I do like the dense clouded sound, but I just don't think the elements that are put into it really mesh in any sort of way. The electronic melody feels really out of place, the pacing of the track feels really off, and the way the track ends on a whim, it just gives the track a feeling of just being inert. I love the woodwind sounding melody on this track. It spices up the sound palette this far into the record. I like the bell-lace drum patterns, and I think the electronic lead that comes in later into the track is very well incorporated. It doesn't overshadow the woodwind or the drums, it just perfectly complements those elements to provide a completely unique aerodynamic sound. Yeah, it's okay. At first listen I was into it, but upon my second listen I really failed to discern what makes this song stand out from everything else. All the ideas and instrumental performances are things I've already heard from songs on this album previously anyway. I don't think it's bad, it's just forgettable. This is a 7-minute long track that I think does enough to justify its runtime. The track progression is nothing crazy, but it doesn't have issues being cohesive, nor does it have issue with pacing. The track's vibe is pretty calming, with some musical highs to serve as payoffs. It has a solid structure, and the Vaporwave aesthetic here is just too strong. This is a pretty good closer. This song sticks with its guns that has been provided from the other tracks previously, and provides another pretty calming experience. The main driving melody once again guides the entire track behind it. The sonic arrangements are pretty solid. The progression, once again, I think it's pretty linear, but having a solid song structure helps fortify this track's composition, and it helps cap off the album in a consistent way. This is a pretty good Vaporwave album. A lot of the ideas here end up being recycled in one way or another, but they mostly end up being put to good use. The times that they are not, however, end up being the weak links in the track list. But I do think while it isn't the most creative or unique Vaporwave album I've heard, what is here is pretty goddamn enjoyable. I give it a